Want to know how we score inventory for free and turn it into big profits? This week, we're sharing the methods that helped us earn over $500 with less than $70 spent, and you can do it too. But first, we'll get started by sharing sales from the week of February 9th through 15th. All right, the first thing that sold was a statement necklace. This was a colorful rhinestone costume statement necklace that we got at a garage sale for $1, and it sold for $20. Next up was a Poshmark sale. This was a 1954 booklet. It was called Tradition and Invention in Modern Art. And this was actually either inside of like that thing with all the prints.
I think that was inside the...
What would you call that? Like a folder with art prints?
It was a folder with art prints from 3 different artists.
Yeah, so this was just a bonus item that was in there. So I have it on our spreadsheet as $0 because we paid for the portfolio that had all the art prints in it, and this was just in there as a bonus
item.
And we decided to list it, and it actually sold on Poshmark for $9 plus shipping. Next up was a 2021 lot of 3 Sonic Wacky Pack Kids Meal toys. They were all monster trucks. Monster truck items tend to sell. People like monster trucks.
Especially Gravedigger.
That's true. People really like Gravedigger. These came from the thrift store out of a thrift store toy bag. We paid 21 cents and they sold for $11.18. Next up was a hard to find rare DVD called Harsh Euro Barge, the Girl Skateboard Company. This was a documentary. We got this at a garage sale for $2 and it sold for $32.
It went to Germany.
It did. It went through the international shipping program. International shipping?
And they gave us good feedback in German. I had to translate it.
Yeah. Next up was a vintage 1980s Skipper Doll pair of yellow sneakers. These were gifted to us and we had no cost. They sold for $7.98. So that brings us to the very first way that we recommend to get free inventory. In this case, free inventory, because we recommend just looking around your house. In fact, that's the best way to get inventory when you're starting out as a new reseller too. So the thing that we recommend is to start by cleaning out a closet or cleaning out your garage, your attic, your basement, even your junk drawer, something like that, and find anything that you no longer need, no longer want, but still has use to someone. Trust me, there is definitely money there because even though you might not necessarily want it, somebody else does. Even if the items aren't worth a lot individually, they might be worth something lotted together. So if you have a big bunch of tools that you no longer use, you could sell them all together as a lot of tools. If you have, a bunch of not so great brands of women's tops, you could maybe sell them all together in a lot of women's tops or something like that.
Look around the items in your house and think, if this were covered in poo, would I clean it and keep it, or would I throw it away? And I would say anything that you would say I would throw it away to that, just sell it. You don't want it anyway.
But if it is covered in poo, maybe don't sell it.
Well, not if it's actually covered in poo, I would advise not selling it.
Yeah.
Or
disclose that
you can use that as your mental guide, kind of like Marie Kondo it, but you do it using poo as your. Yeah. It's like, oh, this
remote. Does it spark joy? Is it covered in poo?
Do I use this remote? Oh, there's poo on it. Do I want to clean it? Yes or no?
Good thought.
The poo method.
Yeah. It's a good one. So anyway, that is the best way to.
How many times can I say poo?
So that is the number one way to get free merchandise. Technically, I know it's not free because you probably paid for most of it, but at this point, that cost was sunk a long time ago, and you're not going out and having to buy that inventory. That's the idea. So look around your house and see what you can find. That's the easiest way to find merchandise where you're not having to invest any additional cost.
It's the lowest effort of all.
Definitely.
You don't have to spend any money because it's right in front of you. You don't have to leave your house. You don't have to talk to anybody. You can just start selling it. There it is.
So stay tuned. We're going to share several more, but before we do that, let's get back to what sold. So next up was a 2007 Microsoft Xbox 360 hard drive transfer cable and disc. These were like together, taped together in the San Antonio Goodwill bins for 87 cents. And we sold that for $24.99.
Nice.
I was surprised that was still in the bins, actually. It was in a really picked over bin.
I just think that the people who were there were looking for different things.
That's true.
I feel like there was a lot of shoe people.
Yeah.
They're looking for specific items.
At the San Antonio bins, there was definitely like an older crowd in that bins. I feel like, there were not a lot of, as one of our viewers stated, there were not a lot of the t-shirt bros in the San Antonio bins. Yeah.
And no kids, because the San Antonio bins does not allow children.
They did not allow children in that bin, so that was interesting.
Although a kid wouldn't have been buying an Xbox transfer cable.
No, just an interesting side note.
Yeah.
Okay, next up was a vintage Disney Winnie the Pooh plastic door banner. It was brand new in the package. The brand was Party Express. This came from the Fort Worth bins, but it was from our trip, that video is going to be coming up, and that'll be the last Goodwill bins video from our trip. So we paid $1.09 for that, and it sold for $19.99. I mean, you wouldn't think that a plastic door banner would be worth anything, but this one was vintage, and Winnie the Pooh stuff is popular, so pick up that kind of stuff, or comp it at least.
Yeah, give it a shot.
Next up was a 1993 Upper Deck Fun Pack baseball card for the player Deion Sanders. This was his baseball card, though, not his football card. This was Kevin's, and it sold for $2.29.
It was a nice set. Actually, it was a really cool set. I really liked that set. They were all like, it wasn't like a picture of Deion. Yeah.
Next up was a vintage lot of 4 antique sewing thimbles. They needed TLC. They were not in good shape. But these came from mostly the Goodwill bins. I thought these came from a storage unit, but we have it listed as the Goodwill bins.
I think we got them in the Goodwill bins.
Okay, so we paid $1.18 for those, and they sold for $12.99. They did come from the Goodwill bins. They were in a big lot of sewing machine stuff, and we parted a lot of those items out. So we had gotten like multiple different sewing machine items, and this was just one of many things that we got. Okay, next up was a 2003 Rand McNally, New Orleans, Louisiana transportation map. This came from that box of maps that we got for $5. Each map came out to us paying just 9 cents for. This one sold for $11.18. Next up was our one very bad buy. Okay, so this was a lot of 79 titles. It was a big horror movie DVD lot. It included, it wasn't 79 individual movies, but it included 79 titles. Some of them had multiple movies on the DVD. Yeah. We got these from many different places. Some of them were gifted to us. Some of them we had gotten at the bin. Some of them we had gotten at garage sales. And in total, we were out of pocket on these for $33.38.
Which I think is inaccurate. I think it was a lot of them were purchased with other things, and we split the cost out to the item. So, I mean, in reality, in total, yes, but in reality, not.
So part of the reason why our cost is so high on this is because we had a lot of these listed individually or in different lots than the way they sold here. And then over time we decided, you know what, we're going to take all of these and we're going to list them in one lot. And so we had taken our cost of goods and put that all together on this. So
it's a misleading cost of goods.
Yes, it is a misleading cost of goods. And then it just wasn't selling. We were lowering our sales price over time, and these ended up only selling for $44.99. So we did have a negative
It's a loss on the
profit.
spreadsheet,
Yes.
but not in the real world.
But honestly, though, I would not.
whatever.
Yeah, we're not going to do any kind of like
No,
big movie lots like this again. So I wouldn't recommend buying
We're
it.
not really buying CDs or DVDs or
But
VHS
I think that
anymore.
yes, as he's saying, I think that the loss is really not as bad as it seems.
It sounds a lot worse than it is.
Yes. So anyway, moving on to another good way to get free or cheap inventory. This is really just to network with people that you know. And I mean, do you go to church? Are you a member of a club? Don't be afraid
Do you
to
have any friends?
Yes, do you have any friends? Let people know what you do. Let them know that you are a reseller and ask them if they have items that they no longer need. You would be surprised if you share what you do with people. A lot of people will just be willing to say, hey, I've got like a big bag of clothes I don't need anymore. Would you like to have it? Like a lot of people would be willing to do that. And that's why we are very lucky actually to have friends and family that are willing to give us things, and we are so grateful for that. So to all of the family members who have given us things and continue to give us things, we are so grateful for that. We really, really appreciate you, and thank you so much from the bottom of our heart. We really, really do thank you for that. So I would recommend that you do the same thing. Let people know what you do, because they'd probably be willing to share their items with you as well. In fact, you'd probably be helping them out, because they get to clean out their space, and you get inventory that you need.
Like some people have specific places they want to donate their stuff to, good causes, and that, I mean, those people
by all means, yes,
do
let them
that.
do
But
that.
a lot of people, most people, I would say, have bags of stuff that they mean to go and take to the donation, or they want to get rid of, but they don't want to take the time to do it. Those are the people you want.
Yeah. And if you can just say, hey, I'll run by your house and take that stuff off your hands.
And anything that we can't sell, we'll donate.
Yes.
We'll take to a donation center and make sure that it goes somewhere.
Exactly.
So
yes.
it's win-win.
Definitely network, let people know, and moving on to the rest of our items from our What Sold. Next up was a vintage Tupperware 2-quart 8-cup plastic mixing measuring bowl. It did not have a lid. This came out of the Goodwill bins for 45 cents, and it sold for $19.99.
Commonwealth would love this one. As a matter of fact, I think I've seen him sell the big plastic one.
This was the one with the spout?
Yeah.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I think I've seen him sell one of these before, at least one.
Next up was a DVD 5-disc box set. This was, I think, a British series called The Darling Buds of May. It was starring Catherine Zeta-Jones. And this was gifted to us from friends and family. So we're taking our own advice here. This sold for $14.38. Next up was a Fort Worth stock show piece of artwork by a local artist named Betsy Crum, and it was custom framed by yours truly. Or
me, yeah.
Yeah. And it was done at our custom picture frame shop. A customer brought this in, put 50% down on this item, and then left it for like 2 years. We called
It's more like 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Because I brought this one in and I was very disappointed, because I worked really hard to find the right frame for them and get the mat right and make it look all beautiful. And then they never came back.
We called her like a dozen times.
Yeah.
We emailed her. We texted her. We reached out to her on Facebook and could not get her to come pick it up. So finally we tried to recoup some of our costs by selling it.
We didn't get quite as much as we should have gotten, but we got some of it back.
So that sold for $99.97. Next up was a vintage hand-painted Japanese Asian geisha figurine. This was purchased at a garage sale for 25 cents, and it sold for $11.98. Next up was a U.S. Air Force aviator patch. It said Cloud 9. It was like a pinup theme patch. This actually, we found this along with a bunch of other patches exactly the same at our custom picture frame shop. Somebody had brought these in many, many, many years ago, left them, and then never came and picked them up. And so we had no cost on that. This one sold for $6 on Poshmark.
We've sold a lot.
$6 plus shipping on Poshmark.
Over the years, we've sold several. We still have several.
Okay, next up was a lot of 4 Kids Songs VHS. Kids Songs and We Sing are 2 vintage VHS that tend to almost always sell for us.
Those I still pick up.
These came from the thrift store for 74 cents, and they sold for $22.99.
And cassettes of We Sing and Kids Songs too.
Yeah, that's a popular one. All right, so next up is another way that you can find free or low-cost merchandise. Now, this is a little bit more work, but you got to get creative sometimes to get a little bit of money. So you could offer to help a friend or a family member or even a stranger help them clean out their house or garage. You could advertise in a local Facebook group or on Nextdoor or something like that, or just offer friends or family hey, I'm willing to come and help you clean out a messy room or a messy garage, either for a really low cost or for free. But the payment is that I get to keep any items that you don't want anymore. And you can end up with some valuable items that way. And I've also heard of resellers offering their services to apartment complexes to help them do clean outs when people move out, or to rental management companies to clean out, rental properties in the same way. We've never personally done any kind of clean outs, although we've had family members who have helped people clean out properties, and then they've gifted us some items that they've gotten from doing that. So that is a really good way to get some really valuable items in that way. I've also heard of resellers making deals with estate sale companies by helping them clean out items like that. You can also get offer to go at the end of a garage sale and say, I'll help take away anything that you don't want for a really low cost or even for free.
So they don't have to take it to the donation center.
Exactly. So you got to get creative sometimes, and sometimes you got to put in a little bit of elbow grease.
This method is much, much more work than the other 2 that we've mentioned. So,
but, sometimes the reward can definitely be worth it.
There can be good payoff on it.
Definitely. Okay, so moving on to what sold. Next up was a pair of vintage Danskin. The color was Bordeaux, so it was a really rich wine color. These were tights, and they were new in the package. These were purchased at a garage sale for $2, and they sold for $16.99. Next up was a lot of 5 American Girl books. These we found at a rummage sale for $3.25, and they sold for $15.
Wouldn't buy those again.
No. Next up was a vintage 1996 Barbie Fashion Avenue clothing items. They were all from the same package. These came from friends and family. They were gifted to us, and they sold for $19.98.
Be amazed how much value you can get in a Barbie bag this big.
I know.
How many hundreds of dollars is in a little bag like that?
The value on Barbie items comes in doing your research and figuring out what the items are. Next up was an Ann Taylor Loft women's black tiered scalloped hem pencil skirt. It was new with tags. We got that at a garage sale for $1, and it sold for $15.98. Next up was a cassette head cleaner by the brand Audition. It was brand new and sealed. Kevin got this at the thrift store for 27 cents, and it sold for $8.78. Next up was a Kansas City Royals fleece pullover. The brand was Holloway. We got that at the Charlotte, North Carolina Goodwill bins when we were there for the
FlipCon 2 years ago. And I thought it was so cool. I grabbed it and I was looking at it, and it just sat there for 2 years. And then suddenly she cross-posted to Poshmark. And it sells like that.
We just didn't have it on the right platform.
Yeah, that was a Poshmark item.
We paid $2.50 for that, and it sold for $28 plus shipping on Poshmark. All right, next up was a lot of 2 Corningware cornflower blue dishes. They did not include the lids. These were mine. I had actually gotten them at estate sales and garage sales a long time ago, and then found that I wasn't using them as much anymore, so I decided to sell them.
We took our own advice.
After I did a kitchen clean out.
We rubbed some poo on it, and we decided I don't want to wipe that poo off.
Nope. So I sold those for $20. Next up was a lot of 2 Bibles, I guess. 2 Bibles. Oh, they were the exact same. 2 of the exact same Bibles from 1984. These were gifted to us.
They were super generic Bibles.
And they were church church
What
pew
you get in
Bibles.
the church pew,
Yeah. And they sold for $16.99. Next up was a Mason's Daughters of the Nile rhinestone enamel brooch. This came from a garage sale for 25 cents. I bought it because I saw that it had the Mason symbol on it and it looked really fancy. And it sold for $19.99. Next up was a trash can. We sold a trash can.
Yeah.
It was a fancy one. This was a 1990s Nicole Miller Lucite Gold Fleck bathroom trash can. Keyword Hollywood Regency. I'm telling you guys, that is a keyword that makes things sell. It sold for $57.98.
Nice.
A trash can.
Nice. That wasn't trash.
Nope. Did not have poo on it. Next up was a
I
2021.
would wipe the poo off of that.
It probably did have a little
And
bit of
then
poo on
sell
it
it.
actually because it was a bathroom trash can.
Oh, yeah. Gross.
Next up was a 2021-2022 Upper Deck MVP Silver Script baseball
Hockey
card for the player Cole Caulfield. That sold for $2.99. This came from Kevin's personal collection.
I think these are actually ones we bought to sell.
Oh, it is?
Like we bought them at a Dollar Tree or something. We went through a phase we were randomly just buying some packs of cards to sell.
Yeah.
I think that's what, or they came out of a storage unit. Those are not my cards.
Next up was a 1996 Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr. card. This was Kevin's. It sold for $2.99.
That was my card, and that's a nice set.
And next up, another tip on getting free or low-cost merchandise is to post on sites like Nextdoor, Facebook Marketplace, local buy-sell trade groups, and let people know that you are looking for collectible items and that you're willing to pay cash for them and that you're willing to come and pick them up. And so you might not necessarily get them for free, but you can get them for low cost, or you can find some really good collectible items that people are just looking to offload. So we always try to have active posts on Nextdoor and on some local Facebook groups. If you look on Facebook and you search in your area, you know, whatever your town name is, buy, sell, trade. There's usually like a mom's group. You can ask to join those groups on Facebook and post, as long as it's following the rules of that group on Facebook, you can post stuff saying, you know, I purchase things for cash and these are the things I'm looking for. You don't always get responses, but sometimes people will see that and say, hey, I have a huge collection of vintage Star Wars items and I'm looking to sell it. And you might be able to negotiate something with that, or you might be able to make a connection and later on down the road, they might want to sell something to you. It's just a really good way to get your name out there, or they might say, share your name with somebody else who they know. So it's just a really good tip to be able to make connections with people. All right, so next up was a pair of Adorn women's shoes. They were a leather lace-up walking style shoe. We got these at the thrift store for $5.40 and they sold for $21.58. Next up was a rabbit decoy by the brand Featherflex. This was gifted to us and it sold for $22.48. Next up was a Denon brand remote control, and that came from a garage sale for $3. It sold for $29.99.
That was a good one.
Next up was a Torrid women's olive green military style popover tunic. This came from a garage sale and it sold for $24.99. Next up was a 1995 Collector's Choice You Crashed the Game Raul Mondesi card. Mondesi? That sold for $9.99.
It was a nice set.
Next up was a pair of Allegria women's embossed comfort sandals. We got these at a flea market for $3 and they sold for $20.98 and they went overseas.
Those did?
Yeah. I was surprised they took as long as they did to sell because they were cute and that's kind of a good brand. So another way to get free or low cost items is on those same platforms where you're posting that you will buy things for cash. Keep an eye out for people who are giving things away for free. I actually try to check at least once a week on Nextdoor, on Facebook Marketplace, on Craigslist, on OfferUp, on any places like that for people who are giving things away for free or for people who are selling things at really low cost. if I'm being honest with you, I rarely find things anymore, but I do find things every once in a while. Or also people will post curb alerts for things they're cleaning out their garage, and they just take a bunch of stuff and they put it on the curb, and it's first come, first serve. But they will sometimes put a post about it, that they are putting this stuff on the curb, and notify people. So that's a good way to find free merchandise. And also, do not limit yourself to only items that you can ship like on eBay, because people will give away large items, large pieces of furniture. If you're willing to go pick those items up, you can resell those locally. So get creative, consider out of the box items, and there are definitely ways to make money on free items that you can pick up through multiple different platforms. Okay, next up was a 7-piece lot of floppy disks. These were gifted to us, and they sold for $21.99. Next up was a pair of men's Lucky Brand jeans. These we got at the Goodwill bins for $1.03, and they sold for $29.69. Next up was a Shark vacuum attachment, and it was new in the package. We got this at the Goodwill bins for $1.09, and it sold for $16.99. Next up was a peasant top by the brand Ruby Road. This was gifted to us, and it sold for $19.98. Next up was some of the Francoma pottery. This was a oval serving bowl. We got this at a garage sale for 75 cents, and it sold for $33.
That was the one where we got everything for $10, right? We got so many pieces.
Yeah.
So many. I think we only have one left.
Really?
Maybe two. Yeah, we've got very little left. I saw another one that looks kind of like that one when I was digging through a bin the other day. I thought they were all gone.
Next up was a 1996 complete year, 12 issues of Popular Mechanics magazines. We got these at a garage sale where they were giving everything away for free, and those sold for $36.
Yeah, we got several years of them, and we've sold a few.
Yeah, we have. Okay, next up was the operating instructions for a compact disc player by Techniques. This was just the manual only. This was gifted to us, and it sold for $18.99. That was like trash.
Manuals.
Speaking of trash, another way that you can find free merchandise is to drive around nicer neighborhoods on trash day, because you would be surprised at what people throw away. And do not be afraid to get out of your car and dig through the trash.
When it's on the curb, it's at
free
that
reign.
point, it's yours. But don't make a mess.
Don't make a mess. Yeah, be nice.
Be tidy.
Be tidy. We call this shopping at Kirby's. That's our special name for it.
That's what she calls it.
Let us know what you call it. But,
it's not dumpster diving because there's no dumpster.
Yeah, it's not dumpster diving. We don't go dumpster
Street
diving
sweeping?
because a lot of places, depending on where you live, that can be considered illegal. So I'm not including that in this list. But if it is legal in your area, that could be something that you could consider. But shopping at Kirby's is legal, and you can go find free merchandise in any neighborhood. But I do think that you're more likely
in a nicer neighborhood, you're going to find
nicer things in a nicer neighborhood.
And we've done it, like I've said it before, we've done it after many people have gone through and still found stuff that was worth keeping out of the landfill. And that's what you're doing when I know you got to think of it like that. Don't think of it as digging through trash. You're keeping items of value out of the landfill.
Yeah.
Because it is literally going to the landfill off of that curb. So.
And while it is more likely that these items might need a little bit of TLC,
sometimes we
have found perfect condition items in the garbage.
Yeah. Perfect.
Just perfect condition.
Like they just didn't want them.
Yeah. So keep an open mind. All right, so next up was a 2015 Kaplan College diploma holder. This was just the cover for a diploma.
I didn't think that would ever sell.
We got that out of a storage unit for $1.16, and it sold for $22.99 on eBay.
And it even had some
damage,
some like bend damage, or
like a crease.
Well, like when you put your finger in something and it keeps that shape, like that, like indentions. It had indentions in the cover. Just took pictures of them. It's all.
Next up was a pair of Land's End's men's chinos. These were free to us. They were gifted to us. They sold for $13.58. Next up was a Daryl Strawberry baseball card. This was Kevin's from 1989, and it sold for $2.39.
That was a nice set.
So as you can see, there are plenty of ways to find low or no cost inventory. And you do not have to go out and spend your hard-earned money at thrift stores, at flea markets, at garage sales, or at auctions.
And like she said at the beginning, that was $70 worth of cost of goods. All that stuff we sold.
Yep.
We spent $70 total on all of it. And that's including the $33 on that DVD set we lost money on. So you take that out of there, that was all $40.
Yeah.
So.
And we're going to go over all of the totals of how much we earned by spending just that $70. And you guys are going to be surprised at how much you can make by just a tiny little investment. So this week we sold 45 items. Our average sale price was $20.96.
It's a little low.
Our sales totaled $943.18. And we spent almost $70 and ended up profiting.
And this is
money
profit.
In our pocket, net profit.
Actual money.
$487.38. And this was a low week for us.
Yeah.
This was a very low week for us. So now I hope we have encouraged you guys to get out there, go find some low or no cost inventory to start your reselling journey. Let us know in the comments below where you find low or no cost inventory. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, make sure to hit it. Make sure to hit the thumbs up button, and we will catch you guys on the flip side.